go through a few tricky questions for the ADI Part 1. Often these questions require really in-depth knowledge of the highway code and driving the essential skills. They're not things that you can necessarily easily guess. So we've got 5 questions today, and we're gonna go through those and show you where you can find the answers in the official publications. Because what's really important when you're revising is you don't just rely on the apps or the websites to practice questions. You must also look through the books, because on the real test there will be questions that come up that aren't on the apps and on the websites, but the answers are in the books, such as some of the questions I'm going to show you here. So let's get right into it. So the questions today are basically based on lots of the highway code and driving the essential skills. So the first one we've got: if you're broken down on the motorway, what is the maximum distance you would need to walk to an emergency telephone? Now, like I say, you really need to know your highway code knowledge here and your essential skills knowledge, because any one of these answers could possibly be plausible, apart from maybe 2 miles, because that's quite a bit of distance to walk to get to an emergency phone. So the answer is going to be, let's just go to the next slide. So page 370 of Driving the Essential Skills, it gives you information on this. So it says about emergency telephones. These phones are connected to control centres, and they are most stretches of motorway at 1 mile intervals. So going back to the question, the answer is not 1 mile, as that's how far away the phones are. Of course, so the furthest distance you could need to travel would be half a mile if you're directly in between 2 of these emergency telephones. So if you're in the middle, it's half a mile that way, half a mile that way. So the answer is going to be half a mile. So, but that's just an example of sort of question of what I mean, that you really need to know your stuff and really need to know these books like the back of your hand. So, next question. When are you allowed to overtake on the left? What sometimes people refer to as undertaking, but officially it's not referred to as undertaking by the DVSA. So if you're in the right-hand lane and if the traffic in the right-hand lane is moving slower than you, if it is safe to do so, on a one-way system, or never. Now again, all these answers could be plausible, because you could think if the traffic's moving slower in the right lane, then go past them on the left. You could equally think, no, you should never overtake on the left. It's something that we're taught when we drive in the UK, that overtaking on the left is dangerous, so is the answer going to be never? Well, let's look at the publications. So page 178 of Driving the Essential Skills has information on overtaking on the left. So it says, you can do it if the vehicle in front is signalling to turn right, and there's more information about that. And also you can do it if the traffic is moving slowly in queues, not just moving slowly, or slower than you. It needs to be in queues, so queuing traffic that's maybe slowing down for a roundabout, for a junction soon, for a traffic light, something that's making it all slow down and stop, not just what's making them go slowly. And then the third time is an additional, you can pass on the inside of slower traffic, i.e. on the left, if you're on a one-way street, one-way system, but not a dual carriageway. So on one-way systems, vehicles are allowed to pass on either side. So, the correct answer would be on a one-way system, because it's not A, because this says the traffic's moving slower in the right-hand lane. It doesn't say about traffic queues, just they're moving slower. It could be someone right lane hogging, but then you're not advised. It's not advisable to overtake them on the left. So yeah, that's the answer. It's going to be on a one-way system. So let's look at the next question. What does this sign mean? So pedestrians in the road, uncontrolled crossing, zebra crossing, or school crossing patrol. Again, all answers sound plausible. And there are similar signs in the highway code. There are several signs in the highway code that look similar. So quite often this sign can get muddled up with which one it is. So again, you really need to know your signs. So if we look in the highway code, so page 109 of the highway code has these signs. So the school crossing patrol is this sign. It's supposed to be two children that are crossing the road. So it's not going to be that, because that's not the school crossing patrol sign, so it's not D. Elderly pedestrian sign, so we didn't have a mention of elderly pedestrians, that's not too relevant, but that's what the elderly pedestrians crossing sign could look like, or frail, or blind, as it's officially known as. Pedestrians in the road ahead, this is what this sign looks like. So that's not the sign we've got, so it's not pedestrians in the road. Zebra crossing, that's the sign we have. So the answer is going to be zebra crossing. I suppose the way you can work out that it's a crossing rather than pedestrians in the road is have a look at the way the pedestrians walking. They're walking across. They're not going along. So it's not pedestrians in the road, because the pedestrians would be going along. We'd basically see the back of the pedestrians on the sign, such as on this sign. So if it's about crossing, the pedestrians will be facing kind of sideways and going across. So we can work out by that, we're not sure. It's going to be something about crossing the road due to the way the pedestrian's facing. And I suppose these dotted lines, you have to notice, these are supposed to represent the dotted lines you'll get at a zebra crossing where you have to stop and give way. If you're driving a car, we have to stop and give way. And in between those dotted lines, you're going to have the black and white stripes to indicate the zebra crossing. So, but basically in summary, zebra crossing is that sign, and there it is in the highway code. Next question. Hi guys, I thought I'd just show you this book to add to your collection. The New Driver's Handbook. It's a 3-in-1 book, and it's got some pretty good reviews from a driving examiner and a driving instructor. It has over 800 practice theory test questions, common driving test faults, driving test general tips, and advice on dealing with nerves on the big day. Finally, it has tips for after you've passed your test, including vehicle maintenance and driving abroad. You can find a link to this book in the description below. Now, back to the video. When would be acceptable to use one foot on each pedal in an automatic transmission vehicle? So, ignore the spelling mistake, it's just trying to Americanise it. I believe that's how you spell manoeuvres in the UK. So again, most of these answers could seem possible. Never could be a possibility. Because you could think, yeah, never use both foot in the pedals, always use your right foot on the accelerator and the brake. I suppose when braking in an emergency, you could rule out, because it's unlikely you're going to want to be pressing the gas and the brake at the same time when you're trying to stop the car quickly. I suppose that could confuse people, because some people might think you might use your left foot to brake, but it's not saying when would be acceptable to use your left foot to brake. It's saying when would be acceptable to use one foot on each pedal, i.e. to use them both kind of at the same time. So this is where you need to really read the questions carefully. So let's look in driving the essential skills. So page 449 of essential skills has information on this. So when carrying out manoeuvres at low speeds, use hardly any accelerator and only light braking. One foot on each pedal is often more convenient and safer. So the answer is going to be when carrying out low speed manoeuvres. So let's look at the next question, the fifth and final one. So what distance should you keep from the vehicle in front when stopping in a tunnel? So really tricky, this one. It could be most of the answers, maybe not one car, actually, it could be one car length, couldn't it? 2 meters you could possibly rule out, because 2 meters is fairly close. Basically, you want to always give yourself room so you can manoeuvre around the vehicle in front should they break down. Particularly important in a tunnel, because you don't want to get stuck behind the vehicle in front, and if they break down, you're then stuck in that tunnel, and being stuck in a tunnel is not a fun place to be. If there's fumes starting to appear in the tunnel, it's going to get not very safe. If a fire starts, it's not going to be safe. Just not a nice environment to be stuck in. So let's look in essential skills. So page 193 of Essential Skills. It says here, if the tunnel is congested, keep your distance even if you're moving slowly. If you have to stop, leave at least a 5-metre gap between you and the vehicle in front. So the answer is 5 metres. So that's, I believe that's our last question. Yep, it is. So that's our 5 questions for today. But hopefully the main thing you've seen from this is you really need to know your publications. You can't just rely on the apps and on the websites. You're going to be teaching learners to drive, so you really need to know these books like the back of your hand. If you don't know this information as well, it's also going to come back and bite you when you're doing your part 2, because if you don't follow the highway code in these publications in your part 2, that could get marked down. It's also going to affect you in your part 3. If you're giving the pupil the wrong information on your part 3 and you're teaching them, let's say you're talking about overtaking on the left, and you say to your pupil, you must never overtake on the left. No circumstances must you overtake on the left. That could get held against you because there are circumstances when it's acceptable to overtake on the left. So I hope that helps. Please do consider liking the video and subscribing. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.